I have not done a U.S. naval ship in quite a while, so I have chosen another Atlantis model that was part of a 3-model set. This build is a 102nd scale PT-207, which I will paint in measure 31 camouflage scheme for the Pacific Theater in 1944. I used the U.S. Navy diagram from measure 31 for PT boats to do the painting. Note that the hull is 3 colors while the deck is 2 colors. The port and starboard side of the hull have different patterns, as is normal for most World War II U.S. naval ships. Let's look at the sprues supplied in this kit. Besides the parts molded in a gray color that is not accurate from measure 31, I note there is a substantial amount of flash on a lot of the parts, which must be sanded off. As with many other models we have built for YouTube, I have not shown cutting the parts off the sprues and sanding them for preparation of painting them for this build. The camouflage colors on the deck of this PT boat is a 2-tone green and black scheme according to the U.S. Navy diagram. As with many of the kits I have done in multicolored paint schemes, I apply colors from light to dark. So the first color I am spraying is TCP 1041 20G deck green to the entire deck and their torpedoes. Note that the torpedoes could also be painted in the 2-tone scheme, which is at the discretion of the captain of the PT boat. I can't imagine that was being done very often, so I am spraying just the 20G on the torpedoes. Note I am spraying all of the colors in this chapter using a Vega 2000 airbrush fitted with a medium or 0.3 millimeter tip at 28 to 32 psi. Observe that I rotate and tilt the parts as needed to ensure complete coverage. Once the first side is dry, I apply the same color to the second side of the torpedoes. I will apply masking to the deck later in this chapter. TCP 1033 number 2 green is the first of 3 colors that needs to be applied to the hull. It is sprayed with the same technique and procedures as described earlier. The instructions calls for some of the parts to be painted dark gray, so I chose TCP 174 grime to spray on these parts. Both sides were done the same way on the radar mast. The ventilators and funnels are also painted this same color. Note, I left these parts on the sprue since these are small and would be difficult to hold. Matte steel TCP 412 is being sprayed on a number of parts for this model. Among them are the guardrails for the gun mounts, some gun mounts themselves, stanchions, steering wheel, and several guns, and other small parts needed. Also, all 3 propeller shafts, which are also left on the sprue. Note that I do not vary the spray procedures for any colors I need to paint. that the deck and hull first colors are dry, I am ready to apply the TCP 900 masking paper to each in order to paint the additional colors for measure 31. On the deck, only one additional camo color is required. On the hull, 2 additional camo colors are needed, according to the US Navy drawing. Using the diagram, I hand draw the pattern on the masking paper. The piece can be cut using a pair of scissors or a sharp hobby knife. I use both techniques interchangeably to get the piece I need. Peel the backing paper off the masking and apply to the area as shown in the diagram. Use a plastic or metal burnisher to secure the masking in place. I am starting from the bow and working back to the stern. Following the diagram as closely as possible, I am cutting the TCP 900 masking paper into the pattern needed for the PT boat. Some pieces are more complex than others, and you may have to apply them in sections rather than in one piece. Plus, the deck has a lot of molded on details which must be masked in angles. Among these areas are the walls and front for the cabin, duck gun mounts, hatches, pylons for the torpedoes, main life raft, and other items. Be aware you may need multiple pieces of masking paper to adequately protect these areas. One final piece for the deck masking is an unusual shape that I drew on the masking paper in parts. Part 1 is cut with a hobby knife, then test fit onto the deck, where I then drew a second pattern and cut that out with the same hobby knife. The backing paper was then removed and the masking applied to the deck. second and final camouflage color, TCP-1001 Dull Black number 82, is sprayed on the deck using the same technique and procedures as I have done previously. Set this aside to dry thoroughly. Note that I have not applied a primer or done anything special to our military paints for multicolor applications. All of our military paint product line is designed for the modeler. If you have any questions about techniques explored in this video or general questions about this build, please post your questions in the comments section below.